The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast NH. This is a podcast designed by writers for writers on the journey to being published. Joined Mandra, Biscornet.
It was so healthy and nutritious.
Deborah Monk.
Can we open each podcast with a dance number?
Shelly, Devlin.
It was so full of inspiration and sparkles.
Every Tuesday morning live on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to catch the podcast anytime on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, or your favorite podcast catcher. It's time to be inspired, feel empowered, and be well with the Writer's Block Podcast NH.
Welcome to the Writer's Block. I'm Debbie. Thank you for joining us at the Writer's Block today, where our mission is to inspire, empower, and help people be well. Today on the Writer's Block, I am the only one in the studio. Why, you ask? Well, I'll give you multiple choice answers. A, Mandra and Shelly missed the last shuttle from Cloud 9, where we've all been living since having Marcy Shimoff of The Secret and Chicken Soup for the Soul as our guest. Option B is they both had to work. Option C is I accidentally locked them in the bathroom behind me because I wanted to have today's guest all to myself. So today we are lucky enough to have Marie Force. She is the New York Times bestselling author of contemporary romance, including the indie-published Gansett Island series and the Fatal series from Harlequin Books. In addition, she is the author of the Butler, Vermont series, the Green Mountain series, and the erotic romance Quantum series. In 2019, her new historical Gilded series from Kensington Books will debut with Duchess by Deception. Altogether, her books have sold 7 million copies worldwide, have been translated into more than a dozen languages, and have appeared on the New York Times bestseller list many times. She is also a USA Today and Wall Street Journal bestseller, a Spiegel bestseller in Germany, a frequent speaker and publishing workshop presenter, as well as a publisher through her Jack's House Publishing romance imprint. She is a 2-time nominee for the Romance Writers of America Rita Award for Romance Fiction. Her goals in life are simple: to finish raising 2 happy, healthy, productive young adults, to keep writing books for as long as she possibly can, and to never be on a flight that makes the news. Welcome, Marie.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we are thrilled to have you here today. So we're going to get right to our questions because we never seem to have enough time. My first question for you is, how the heck are you so prolific?
Well, I think that goes back to journalism training, actually. I had to be when I was a reporter, and I just kind of, I don't know, I write quickly, and the journalism training was really helpful in like writing clean. The first time, I'm very particular about getting it right the first time so that I don't have to do massive revisions. I just don't have time for that. So I work really hard to try to get it right the first time, and no messing around, just, get it done and keep things moving forward. And that's kind of like how it works for me. I don't know.
Well, clearly it's working for you. You are one of the first authors to see the trend of independent publishing. It was a whole new market. You put out a fabulous product and were very successful. As a superwoman of the indie route, what is the difference between when you started and now?
Well, at the beginning, there was a lot of unknowns. Mostly, it was, the biggest unknown was that we didn't have any support. We didn't have like all the, the groups and there's a massive collegial network of fellow authors who make it so that nobody's doing this by themselves. And at the beginning, we didn't have that. There was also no language in publisher contracts that dealt with indie publishing at first. I remember asking my agent, am I going to get sued for doing this? Because I was under contract with 2 publishers and no one knew. I mean, nobody had done this. So not in the sense that we were planning to do it, now, like there's been self-publishing, but this is a whole different era of self-publishing, as you know. And so there was a real lack of information. Like non-compete clauses didn't address indie publishing or in any significant way. And I had books coming from 2 different publishers right after I first put my own books up. And I just did it kind of quietly and let them sit there, and didn't really say too much about them because we really legitimately did not know what the contract, provisions were going to be. And we weren't about to ask, because
Right.
then if you ask and
Then
they come back and say, oh, you better not, then you better not. But so, we didn't ask for permission. I just did it. And then what ended up happening was actually pretty cool because in February so I first published on my own in November of 2010, and then I did it again in December of 2010. And then February 1st, one of my earlier publishers put a book up for free for a week, and my numbers absolutely exploded. And literally that was February of 2011, and they haven't come back down since. So that's when I started publishing a book a month, just because I had all these books written. And I couldn't sell them to a publisher to save my life. I had stacks of rejections. And so I had all these books ready to go. And then when I love that quote, that luck is the convergence of preparation and opportunity. So when the opportunity happened, I was ready. And I didn't even know what it was I had been preparing for all those years. But when I had the chance to go for it, I did. And I published the first 3 books in my Gansett Island series, April, May, and June of 2011. And that series has now sold 3 million books. And I'm working on book 19 with no end in sight. And every single one of them, the readers go crazy over. So I call that job security. But, it's just been kind of a wild ride. And I sold 80,000 books in 2011 and quit my 16-year day job to write full time. So, and it literally happened almost overnight after 5 years of trying to make something happen.
Right. The
So,
typical overnight success story, which takes 10 years.
Yeah. Let me show you my stacks of rejections. There's some of them are so great too, written on the outside of a self-addressed stamped envelope, not for us,
Right.
So nothing even in it, just not for us. So every rejection, I got blackballed by one agency of agents because I apparently queried them too often. I mean, I had every single publisher in the romance business rejected Made for Love, which is the first book in my Gansett Island series. And I'm so thankful for that now. So,
Wow.
at the time it was demoralizing, but now I'm woo, thank God. I mean, seriously, I'm looking out at a pretty cool view that the McCarthys bought me. So
Thank you, McCarthy.
yes, thank you, McCarthy family.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
pretty cool. I mean, sometimes I still can't believe it happened the way it did. I mean, I really can't. My now full-time assistant used to work with me at the day job, and we would talk about when I was going to hire her as my full-time assistant, and it was a joke. I mean, it was a joke because I was a low 4-figure thousandaire as an author, and nothing was happening, and then suddenly everything happened, and I quit my job at the end of 2011, and she quit hers at the end of 2012 and has worked for me since the beginning of January 2013. So what we said was going to happen in a million years.
a million years did.
Bam. Yeah. But it's all because of indie publishing. I mean, I've had very good and very successful relationships with traditional publishers, but I certainly wouldn't be in the position to have employees or anything like I do without the indie publishing. That's really what was the game changer for me.
Wow. I do love passion is one thing that I've always studied. I consider myself a student of passion, and one of the things I have discovered is that you don't know where it's going to take you. That you just keep doing the work, you keep showing up, and it's kind of like river rocks in the fog. You take one step and you can't see the whole path, but you just take the next step, and then the next one will appear in the fog. And it kind of sounds like that's what you're saying happened with your first series.
Yeah, it's true, because I tell other authors the only thing that you have control over is the books, and really if you focus all your attention on the books, and you don't get caught up in there's a lot of baloney that goes on in the business, and every week it's something. And, 2 weeks ago, all the erotic romance rankings disappeared on Amazon. So, of course, that was a massive uproar. This week, there's discussions about systemic racism in the romance business. And it's absolutely a critical conversation that we're now having. But every week, there's some sort of tumult in the business. And, you really just have to kind of keep your head down and participate and, speak out when you can. But keep your eyes on the books, because there's a million other things that are going to want to distract you. And I try to spend 90% of my time every day on the books, and I still do that. 70 books later, I still do that.
I mean, because it seems to me that you do so much more than just writing. So I'm fascinated to hear that 90% of your time is still spent on the books. That's amazing.
It is. Yeah. Because, well, that's what I want to do too. You know what I mean? It's like, I do, like, the beauty of being self-employed is you can do whatever the hell you want. And there's nothing I want to do more than write books. So I still continue to put as much of my time every day as I possibly can into that. But, I am balancing a bunch of other things too. I love to teach workshops to other authors. I've got one going this week on marketing. I got one going next week on the next 2 weeks on write your way to readers that stick. And, just I love to interact with other authors and to try to help them through all the hurdles. I mean, to me, that's fun. I like working with the authors that we're publishing through Jack's House. We've suddenly got a bunch of them, and that's fun, So to me, it's all part of the business. But my primary focus on any given day is on my own books.
See, that's so good to hear, because in prepping for this.
It has to be.
I believe I looked at your website, and I literally spent days. I have your book here. I read your books, but I also spent days
Which one did you read?
Where's I wanted to show you. Oh, it's right over there. The very first one of the Gansett.
Oh, Made for Love.
Yes, it's it's on that table.
That's coming out actually in mass market paper for the first time, which is really exciting. These are the kind of things that have been really cool too. Is that so Gansett Island has been going strong since April of 2011, which is it's so ironic to me that 7 years to the day, literally to the day, from when I published the ebook copy of Made for Love. And I'm just thinking of this right now as we're talking, that, oh my God, it's 7 years exactly. The mass market paperback edition is coming out from Kensington Books. And I literally just saw the full marketing plan that they have. And I'm so blown away by the effort that they're putting forth for these books. And so, obviously I'm hoping that it's going to be the start of getting all my indie books into mass market paper. And it's been such a cool little collaboration, because I kept all the other rights and I signed off the paperback rights to this incredible, dynamic, independent publisher I've never seen a marketing plan like what they've got in store. I mean, they're putting books on pillows in Block Island, which is like the island
where it's set, right?
Yeah, they're putting posters on the ferries to Block Island, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket. I'm just like, in addition to all the regular stuff that everybody does, like the ads and blah, 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 but like they're just so far above anything I've ever seen before. And I said to them today, if this doesn't blow me up in print, I don't know what will. So, and the covers are beautiful. And yeah, so, I mean, all these cool collaborations happening. I have a book coming out in October that's coming out in ebook, print, audio, French, and German on the same day. All of it on the same day. So and it's an indie book, and the print book is being published by the same company that's doing the Gansett Island book. So it's like all these cool things that are possible now that we couldn't have dreamed of 8 years ago, like having an indie book come out in French and German on the same day as the English. Like that was, that would have never happened 8 years ago. So it's pretty cool.
Unfortunately, see, I don't even know that stuff doesn't happen yet. I'm still looking for the English version, but
I don't know anybody else who's done that on the indie side yet. That's had the foreign translations come out on the same day. I don't know of anybody. It doesn't mean that it hasn't happened, but I haven't seen that yet.
Well, in looking at your website with everything that you offer, I was wondering I was going to ask you, what made you decide to diverge from writer to a whole publishing conglomerate?
Well, two things. One is an interest in the business. And I get a lot of inquiries from other authors who are looking for X, Y, and Z. And it's more of like an organized way of kind of giving back a little bit. But also I have 4 full-time employees, and I like to keep them busy. They've all become mini experts in the business. And, having all these other little things going on sort of takes the pressure off of me to like kind of be able to I don't have to come up with all the revenue on my own, you know what I mean? So it's like the business, supports them, and it's kind of like it's about keeping everybody employed too, and like I love having them, and I love having their assistants, and it's 4 of my favorite women, including my niece, works for me, which is awesome, and her 5-year-old, who's our business associate. So I mean, like having people like that around me, my best friends working with me, branching out helps me to kind of take the pressure off of me, but keeps them employed, So that's like a secondary goal, though, to providing the service. So.
Well, that's a perfect segue to what inspired Live with Marie and Dan. I have to tell you, I love how fast you talk and how slow Dan talks.
I know. That's like the story of our lives. I'm always one step ahead of him. So we went on a road trip in West Texas in September. And we crack ourselves up. So we thought, other people might. Well, I thought he wants nothing to do with it, as you can tell. He's a good sport though, and he just had his hip replaced. So we've been on sabbatical with Live with Marie and Dan. It's just another funny way to connect with the readers. The readers love it. They love him. He comes to my reader weekend every year, and he's a big hit with the ladies. So he tells them that he invented the YMCA dance.
Yes, I saw that show.
All the baloney he's putting out. So,
oh Lord,
he leads it every year. It's like this tradition, and I don't know, he's a good time had by all. So, we have fun. I mean, like we have a friend that videotapes it for us. He's like our Gelman, and from Live with Kelly and Ryan, and so we it's just another fun thing that the readers enjoy. We do it through YouTube channel, and we'll be adding to it at some point, but. We've just been so busy. So, and him having hip replacement surgery has been, I keep telling him, you're cleared to get back to being my full-time butler now. And he's like, no. So,
well, it sounds like you're ready to trade him in for 2 younger versions anyway. He's cutting that line.
I tell him that all the time. He just turned 57. So I told him I'm going to trade him in for two, what is that? 27s or
27 and a half?
I can't even do that math. Is that 2 26s or whatever?
You're not picky.
No, and he said I wouldn't know what to do with them, and I told him he needs to read my books. So.
Great answer. That show really does make you, as an author, readers tend to think of authors as these people who they can never reach out to, never talk to, never be like, never be in the same space. And, watching that show really, I mean, I think it's filmed in your kitchen.
It is.
Yeah, and you're talking about your cabinets.
It's our studio.
Yes, but it really gives you a sense of, boy, I really feel like I know her, and she's accessible and she's normal, and
I try to be, listen, what you see is what you get. Like there's everybody's been joking about Kobo did this thing this week about they have this ongoing series about Wonder Women in publishing, and they did one on me this week, and it's got a crown and all that, and everybody's like, oh, that's really cool. And I'm like, okay, I didn't leave my house for 4 days this week. I was in my pajamas 24 hours a day, shower, new pajamas. That's my life. You know what I mean? There's nothing glamorous about it. And my husband's like, are you gonna get dressed today? I'm like, why? I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, that's heaven.
We're totally empty nesters now. And back when my son was still living at home, I would be like, oh, I should get dressed so he doesn't think that women are not supposed to get dressed in a day, because I don't want him to aim too low in his life. So now I don't even have that excuse, So yeah, this was a week of take a shower at 5, put new pajamas on, take a shower at 5. It was that kind of week. I was so busy, and the weather was crap, and there was nothing going on. So
yeah, and if you don't have to
all the time.
Well, and just a complete side note, I saw your picture, or maybe you were just talking about it, of visiting Fixer Upper.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I did it too.
I'm obsessed.
Yes.
I love everything about that. I'm very sad that their show is over, but I don't think we've seen the last of them. So they'd be crazy to give up that platform,
Right.
I think they want it out of HGTV. That's my theory, because HGTV is evidently very restrictive on what they can do outside of HGTV. So that's my theory.
I see. Well, and she's having another baby, so that's probably.
Yeah, no, she is, and their kids are growing up fast, and I get that. And when we were in Waco, we heard some stuff about how tourists are tracking down their kids at school, and they had to homeschool them and stuff like that. That's kind of crazy. So I can see how it's kind of gotten a little out of hand for them, but they're so great. They're so good at what they do. So I hope we'll see more of them. I want to get into flipping houses, and my husband's like, with what time are you going to do that? And I'm like, well, I did it once. I want to do it again. So I need a hobby. My hobby became my job.
Well, he should know you well enough by now to know that when you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it.
Yeah, he gets a little crazy in the eyes when he sees me really talking about something over and over again, and he's like, "Oh, you're really gonna?" He took me for a walk one day because he said I hadn't been out of the house in weeks, And I'm always like this in the winter. I'm very hibernational. Is that a verb? Hibernational. And we walked down the street, and there was a house for sale. And by the time we had walked the beach and come back, I was like, we could buy that house, fix it up, and make it an Airbnb. And this will be our third season of running it as an Airbnb. And he's like, no more walks for you. So just keep her in the house. But I loved doing that, and I would like to do it again. But, time, always the issue.
Yes. Well, you seem especially adept at seeing the trends in the writing world and also adapting. Do you have a crystal ball along with your incredible business acumen?
No. No, because I think the one thing that never changes, and I really believe this to be true, is that the power of a good story well told. I don't think that there's any trend or any, crazy fad or anything that can change the readers connecting to an author, a book, a story, a series that they love. There's just no substitute for that. And all the trends in the world, you can follow them, but most of the trends, by the time you write the book, are going to be gone as soon as, I think about the new adult trend where everybody was jumping on that in romance. It was, the new adult is like the college age. And it took a year for literally the massive influx of books to kind of ruin the trend, and I never write to trend ever. I write what I want to write when I want to write it. And sometimes I've just been really lucky with, hitting things that are popular. Like the small town thing, the erotic romance was very popular. This romantic suspense has been amazing. And I have a historical coming out next year, which is actually kind of funny because I wrote it 8 years ago. The first 3 quarters of it 8 years ago. And I finished the last quarter of it when I was on vacation last month. And it's coming out next year. So it started in 2010, sold in 2017, finished in 2018, published in 2019.
Wow.
But in 2010, I don't think I was ready to release a historical when I was building the contemporary brand. And now I feel like, I might be able to get away with that. I certainly don't think that all of my contemporary readers are going to be like, woo, a historical, but I think enough of them will, that it'll make it worth it for me to do it. But it's just kind of funny the way things happen. Now historical is kind of making a little bit of a comeback right now. So it's kind of, again, good timing. Right. Not intentional, but good timing.
Well, and it almost seems that being a writer isn't enough these days. I'm wondering, what do you suggest for the typical writer who often is an introvert?
It's my dog, Louie.
Oh, hi, Louie.
So I guess, I don't know, I think we all become introverts from working at home and from, wanting to be kind of alone with our stories and our own thoughts and all of that. And this coming weekend, I'm going to a big signing. I've never done one before, and I'm kind of I've got a little bit of hives about that. Not big on crowds and, huge numbers of people. And I guess that's the same thing as crowds. But so I think we're all introverts in some ways. I mean, some of us obviously like to get out there and be with people and all of that. But I think the more I work at home, I've worked at home for 22 years now, but the more I work by myself and all of that, the less I want to be out and, in the craziness. And I kind of had to make myself do a little bit of it this year because my excuse was, oh, my son's still in high school, so I don't want to, while my kids are still at home, I want to be home with them. And then he went and grew up on me and I lost my excuse. And so now I got to kind of go out and be social a little bit, but it's not something I'm dying to do. So, but I do like to see the readers. I love to see the readers. Any excuse to see the readers, I do enjoy. But when there's thousands of them, not so much.
Well, Marie, I have to tell you, I can't wait till those days come.
Huh?
I can't wait till those days come. I can't wait till they're lined up at the door to see me.
Well, yeah. I mean, I love that, but what I don't I get a little bit overwhelmed. I always make the joke that I feel like an oversensitized toddler when I go from being home alone to being in a massive room full of screaming. There's a lot of screaming when readers meet their favorite authors, and it's frantic, the energy. And this one next weekend is 5 hours, and I'm just like,
that's a long time.
Yes. So I've never done it before. Julie's predicting that I'm going to do the 4 that I have planned for this year, and that will be that.
Right.
But we'll see. I mean, my mind is wide open to it. It's just, I'm a little bit, that's when my introverted side comes out, is those massive crowd things, so it's not my favorite thing.
Well, Marie, this has been wonderful. And
I like it more than I like to fly, though. I would like to say that.
Well, yes, I can tell from your bio. If you'd like to get a hold of Marie, you can join her mailing list at Marie's mailing list for news about her new books and upcoming appearances in your area. Follow her on Facebook, Twitter at Marie Force, and on Instagram. Or join one of Marie's many reader groups, and you can contact her at marie@marieforce.com. So, Marie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We'd like to thank you for listening, and please check out the Writer's Block NH Facebook and the Writer's Block podcast on Podbean. May you be inspired, feel empowered, and be well.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.